applying labels has to do with social power. It has to do with social relationships. Let's give one more example of mental illness. Here we have someone. They begin to act in a way that their family thinks is somehow strange, somehow bizarre. Family begins to talk amongst itself. You notice Bill lately? Bill has been acting a little strange. We have begun to initiate what Irving Goffman calls the moral career of the mental patient. This person has now begun a process whereby others with power over this person are going to begin to force this person to accept a set of labels and act like it. What do I mean by that? I turn to my friend, I turn to my wife, I turn to my parents, I say, Bill is acting strange. I'm beginning to get worried about it. Well, I haven't noticed anything. Watch him. So now I have planted my label in someone else's mind. They come back to me and they say, you're right, Bill is acting strange. What do you think we should do about it? I'm not sure. Let's talk to him about it. Bill, are you okay? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. You tired? No. Stressed? No. Come back. Bill says nothing's wrong. Something's definitely wrong. I know Dr. Smith, who's a psychiatrist. I'm just going to give him a call. One of the things that mental patients, people who are defined as mentally ill, always say is they feel the sense of people conspiring against them. You know why? And they say, oh, that's part of their mental illness. It's not part of their mental illness. People are conspiring against them. People are talking about them behind their back. People are calling the psychiatrist on the sly. It's part of the moral career of the mental patient. It's part of this process we put them through. What is one of the first things we want anyone, whether they're an alcoholic, whether we think they're an alcoholic, whether we think they're a mental patient, what is the first thing we want them to do? What is the first step to cure, we always say? Admitting you have a problem. How do you get someone to admit they have a problem? You convince them that they have a problem. You become a moral entrepreneur. And you say, look, Bill, you're never going to get better until you admit you have a problem. But I, Bill, don't think I have a problem. All right, I'm going to withdraw affection. I'm going to withdraw support. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to talk to you. I start to threaten Bill that unless he accepts my label of his behavior, I will begin to withdraw from him, and other people will begin to withdraw from him that which he needs to live and sustain himself. I'm using a coercive method of labeling to get someone to admit to a label that they may not agree with. And this is the means by which Irving Goffman says we push someone through a moral career. Career in this sense is used in the sociological meaning, not necessarily that from which you gain your livelihood, but a set of steps, life steps that you go through. We all have statuses. When I talk about role theory, there's part of role theory called statuses. And we all inhabit many statuses of many different kinds. I am a professor at a university. That's one of my statuses. I am a husband. I am a white male. I'm a baby boomer. I have all of these statuses. But there are some select statuses that sociologists call your master statuses. And these are statuses that are more than just parts of what identify you, but they fundamentally make up the way people react to you. For example, in our society, race is a master status. Being black or being white in this society has a lot to do with how you feel about the way you live in the society, how people react to you. Gender is a master status. In other societies, for example, race may not be a master status. That society may not differentiate much about race. In our society, we do. Master status becomes a fundamental part of your identity. Mental illness becomes a master status. If you are considered to be mentally ill, people consider you mentally ill, they interpret your entire life, your behavior, their way of reacting to you, and looking at you through that status. It's a very dangerous thing to give someone a master status of mental illness, to push them through this moral career. That's the power of the labeling theory. The labeling theory can understand subtleties about the dynamics of deviance that none of the theories we've talked about before can really understand. However, there are also some problems with labeling theory. Though it's very good in focusing on society's reaction to the deviant, though it's very good in focusing on the dynamics of deviant formation, And even though I said that murder is interpreted differently in different societies, still, it probably is better at explaining those processes about which there's social disagreement than those about which there's a lot of social agreement. Talking about a mass murderer, talking about a serial killer, who would be deviant in almost every culture on Earth, and saying this is all about labeling probably isn't that effective. On the other hand, talking about the vast majority of deviants, why beating your wife is a crime in the United States and is a sign of healthy male machismo in some other cultures, why America has on the books thousands of crimes of an economic nature and a very small number of crimes of a political nature, while the former Soviet Union had thousands of political crimes and a much smaller set of economic crimes, says less about the fundamental nature of the deviant who performs than it says about the values of the society who wants to interpret that. A second problem with labeling theories. It is suggested from the beginning, labeling theory has, that deviance is a process whereby a powerless person is labeled by the powerful and then enters this career of deviance. Well, Rosa Parks got on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, and sat in the front of the bus and defied the laws of Montgomery, Alabama, and the police came and she said, "Arrest me." Her act of acquiring a deviant label, of performing a criminal act, was a powerful act. This wasn't about a bunch of powerful people labeling a powerless person. This was about a powerful person saying, label me, and I'm going to challenge your labels. I'm going to change society because being labeled can be a powerful act. So it isn't always the powerful person labeling the powerless person. Another problem, a lot of people try to refute labeling theory by showing, as I said, that some crimes are considered universal crimes. And actually, there are a certain number of crimes that are pretty much agreed upon across societies that they are criminal behavior. Murder, kidnapping, certain kinds of rape, certain kinds of arson, for example, burning down someone else's living quarters, is universally considered to be an act of deviance. So there must be some fundamental acts that make living together in ordered society impossible. And yes, we may put layers of labeling on that, but labeling itself isn't going to be what really explains those things the best. And a final problem with labeling, and this is probably the problem that in one sense kills the labeling perspective when used alone. But as we'll see in the next lecture, when you take labeling theory and you combine it with a conflict perspective, it solves this and many of these other problems, and you get a very robust theory. And that's this problem. If you were to take a pure labeling perspective, why have rehabilitation? If it's not my act, that's the issue in deviance. But it is your reaction as society. Then how do I need to be rehabilitated? Why do I need it? What should rehabilitation do? It's not my problem. It's society's problem that it defined my act that way. Remember, I ended the last lecture by saying there's a way we could get rid of all crime. Make everything legal. Then there's no need for prisons. There's no need for rehabilitation. Remove society's process of labeling, and you end all crime. Of course, that's not acceptable. It's not fruitful. So labeling by itself can't help us that much. It gives us valuable insights, but it can't be the final word. But perhaps if we combine it with some other new insights in this general perspective, we might come out with something that can help us a lot more.